In a city where the tallest buildings kissed the clouds and the streets buzzed with life, there was a restaurant unlike any other. It was the kind of place people whispered about, where every meal was an experience and every table had a story. Among all the patrons who walked through its polished doors, there was one man who everyone knew by reputation alone. He was a billionaire, a powerful CEO whose name carried weight in every boardroom and whose presence demanded attention wherever he went. Yet, he preferred to dine alone, as if the world's chaos could be kept at bay in the quiet of his own thoughts. The staff of the restaurant had grown wary of him over the years. Waitresses and servers, usually confident in their skills, approached him with caution. Some tried to smile too brightly, others over-explained the menu, and a few even hesitated before taking his order. All attempts ended the same way. The billionaire would frown, make a pointed comment about service, and send them away. It became a silent challenge among the staff to see who could survive serving him, though none had truly succeeded. Conversations in the kitchen often revolved around what kind of person could withstand the pressure, and more often than not, these conversations ended with a shake of the head and a sigh. The billionaire had a presence that was both magnetic and intimidating. His sharp eyes scanned the room, always observing, always analyzing. He didn't raise his voice, didn't throw tantrums, but his silence could feel heavier than any shout. Waitresses who had tried to serve him often described the sensation of their stomachs tightening, their hands trembling as they approached his table. Some left the restaurant in tears, while others vowed never to attempt it again. Even the manager, experienced and composed, approached the task with a careful strategy, trying to predict the billionaire's preferences in advance. Despite his demanding nature, there was a method to his personality that no one seemed to understand fully. He wasn't cruel without reason. He simply held people to a standard so high that ordinary service seemed insufficient. Every detail mattered to him, from the way the cutlery was arranged to how water was poured. Many saw this as arrogance, but a few whispered that it might be perfectionism, a relentless pursuit of excellence that left no room for error. Whatever it was, it created a barrier between him and the staff, a wall built not out of dislike but out of expectation. On a busy evening, the restaurant buzzed with energy. Waitresses glided between tables, balancing trays of food and drinks, their movements almost choreographed to avoid collisions. In the corner, the billionaire took his usual seat, a spot that gave him a clear view of the entire dining area. His presence was felt instantly, and a subtle hush fell over the staff as they noticed him settle in. Conversations slowed, eyes flicked toward him, and the usual ease of service transformed into careful calculation. Among the staff, there was a mixture of fear and curiosity. Who would try tonight? Would it be someone new, inexperienced, or would a seasoned waitress attempt it despite knowing the risks? Each server passing by the billionaire's table felt a pull of anxiety. Some rehearsed their greetings under their breath, while others avoided eye contact entirely. The air seemed charged with tension, a silent anticipation of what was to come. The billionaire ordered quietly, his voice low but firm. Even his choice of words held weight, each syllable precise. The menu seemed to shrink in significance under his scrutiny, and waitresses often stumbled over their words as they tried to repeat the options. He listened intently to every explanation, though his face betrayed little reaction. For some, this silence was terrifying. For others, it was a puzzle begging to be solved. Stories about serving him had circulated for years. One waitress had tried to recommend a special dish, only to be met with a calm but sharp critique of her suggestion. Another had tried to make small talk, attempting to lighten the mood, but the billionaire's response had been so measured and precise that it left the waitress doubting her words for weeks. Each story added to the mythos surrounding him, making the idea of serving him almost legendary among the staff. The challenge wasn't just about taking an order. It was about surviving the scrutiny, about meeting a standard that seemed impossible. In the midst of this tension, the staff prepared for the evening with extra care. Tables were polished, chairs aligned, and menus checked for accuracy. Every detail mattered because, in the eyes of the billionaire, small mistakes were magnified. The manager reminded everyone to remain calm, to observe, and to anticipate needs, knowing that even the slightest lapse could lead to disappointment. The atmosphere, usually casual and lively, felt almost like a performance in a grand theater, each staff member playing their part under invisible pressure. As the night wore on, the billionaire dined in silence, occasionally nodding or sipping his drink, observing the world around him without a word. He seemed detached, yet his attention was sharp, missing nothing. Waitresses who approached felt the weight of his gaze, the unspoken expectations that hovered like a shadow over their every movement. Some faltered, some retreated, but others watched and learned, studying how to navigate this uncharted territory. The restaurant itself seemed to hold its breath, aware of the unique dynamic at play. Other diners noticed the energy shift, some with curiosity, others with admiration for the staff who dared approach him. In the kitchen, a quiet discussion continued about who could possibly succeed in this delicate task. It was more than serving food. It was a test of composure, patience, and intelligence. The billionaire's presence transformed an ordinary dinner into an extraordinary challenge. By the end of the evening, one truth was clear. Serving him was no ordinary task. It required more than skill. It required understanding, empathy, and courage. The staff knew that no matter how ordinary or extraordinary a waitress might be, the experience of meeting his expectations would be a story to tell, a lesson in resilience and observation. As the billionaire left, a subtle shift lingered in the air, a reminder of the delicate balance between fear and respect, power and humanity. In that moment, the stage was set for someone extraordinary to step forward. Someone who could see beyond the intimidating facade, who could navigate the unspoken rules with confidence and grace. The anticipation grew, leaving the staff and patrons alike wondering who it would be. The restaurant had been witness to many failed attempts, but the possibility of success hung in the air, waiting for the right person to rise to the occasion. Among the busy hum of the restaurant, one waitress quietly prepared for her shift. She was not new, but she was not among the most experienced either. She had grown up understanding hard work and responsibility, helping her family in small ways and learning that patience often mattered more than speed. She moved with a calm energy, noticing details others might miss, and she believed in treating everyone with respect, no matter how intimidating they seemed. Tonight, however, would test her in ways she could not have imagined. The staff were still uneasy about the billionaire's presence. Whispers passed quietly among them as they went about their work. Some doubted anyone could serve him properly. Some doubted they could even survive the encounter without making mistakes. She listened, not because she feared him, but because she wanted to understand the situation. She had seen the nervous glances, the shaky hands, and the silent retreats of her colleagues. She had also seen their courage, even if it faltered. She knew that serving this man would require more than technique. It would require a clear mind, patience, and the ability to read the unspoken cues. She approached her station with quiet confidence. Her apron was clean, her notebook ready, and her mind focused. She remembered the manager's advice from earlier. Observe, anticipate, and be genuine. That was her plan. Unlike some of her colleagues who tried to impress with rehearsed lines or exaggerated politeness, she chose simplicity. She wanted to show respect without overdoing it. She wanted to serve the man as she would serve anyone else, but with awareness of his reputation. Her approach was not bold or reckless. It was thoughtful and careful. When she first noticed the billionaire seated at his usual table, she felt a familiar flutter of nerves, but it was not fear. She observed how he held himself, the way he scanned the room, the subtle movements of his hands, and the calm but focused expression on his face. She could see why many had struggled before. His eyes seemed to read through people, as if he could sense hesitation and weakness immediately. But she reminded herself that he was still human, with preferences and feelings, and that understanding this would be the key. As she walked past him to attend other tables, she observed how he interacted with the world around him. He didn't speak loudly, didn't demand attention with force, but the presence he carried was unmistakable. Others moved quickly around him, anxious not to attract his notice, while she allowed herself to study him carefully. She noticed small details. The way he placed his napkin on his lap, the subtle nods he gave when he approved of something, the gentle tapping of his fingers when deep in thought. These observations told her more than anyone's stories ever could. When the time came to approach him, she took a deep breath and reminded herself of her training and experience. She smiled softly, keeping her tone calm and friendly, and approached his table with a quiet determination. Her first words were simple, just a greeting and an offer of service, but delivered with sincerity. Unlike some who tried to show off their knowledge of the menu, she let him lead the conversation, listening carefully and noting his preferences. Her attention to detail did not go unnoticed. There was no overcompensation, no exaggeration, just careful observation and a natural ease that made the atmosphere less tense. The billionaire's initial reaction was subtle. He did not frown or smile, but his eyes lingered on her longer than usual. She continued with her calm approach, answering questions when asked and noting his preferences discreetly. She did not try to impress him with stories or jokes. Instead, she focused on making the service smooth, seamless, and comfortable. Her demeanor was composed, showing that she respected his presence without being intimidated by it. Small moments began to shift the dynamic. She remembered details from their first interaction of the evening and anticipated his needs. She offered water without being asked, adjusted the position of utensils when she noticed them slightly out of place, and described dishes accurately without overselling them. Each action was deliberate but natural, showing attentiveness and respect. The billionaire, used to nervous or overeager service, seemed intrigued. He noticed her calm confidence, a rarity in the staff who had tried before. Other staff observed quietly, amazed at her composure. They had never seen anyone approach the billionaire without hesitation or fear. Some whispered to each other, questioning how she managed it. Was it her experience, her personality, or something else entirely? The truth was, she had learned to focus on what mattered. Respect, attention to detail, and understanding the person she was serving. It was not about being extraordinary in appearance or speech, but extraordinary in awareness and thoughtfulness. As the meal progressed, subtle interactions began to reveal more about the billionaire. She noticed how he responded to small gestures, how he appreciated precision and clarity, and how he valued attentiveness over flattery. Each observation helped her adjust her service, creating a rhythm that made the dining experience smoother. She remained calm, composed, and thoughtful, qualities that seemed almost foreign to someone of his status and expectation. For the first time, the tension between him and a waitress seemed to ease. Other diners and staff began to notice the difference. There was no visible frustration, no pointed criticism, only a subtle shift in energy. The billionaire's focused gaze softened, his posture relaxed slightly, and he began to interact in a way that suggested curiosity rather than judgment. The staff who had previously doubted anyone could serve him watched with fascination. They had all learned to expect tension, but now they were witnessing an unusual harmony. She continued to move between attentiveness and discretion, balancing her presence without intruding. She did not rush him, did not crowd the table, and allowed him to set the pace. Her calm demeanor seemed to disarm the unspoken expectations that had intimidated others. With every small detail attended to and every gesture considered, she was slowly building a connection that no previous waitress had managed. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it created an atmosphere that allowed the billionaire to feel at ease in his own space. By the end of the evening, a small transformation had occurred. The billionaire had experienced service without the usual tension, without the nervous energy that often surrounded him. He had been observed and respected in ways that felt genuine rather than performative. The waitress had not changed who he was, nor had she tried to, but she had understood him enough to make the experience comfortable and dignified. Her courage, thoughtfulness, and natural ease had made a lasting impression, even if he did not yet show it fully. In the kitchen and among the staff, whispers turned into admiration. She had achieved what others had failed to do. She had approached the billionaire with composure and respect, and she had maintained it throughout the service. Her actions had not only impressed him, but had also inspired her colleagues, showing that confidence and attentiveness could bridge even the most intimidating gaps. The staff began to discuss quietly how rare it was to see someone handle such a challenge so naturally, and how they could learn from her approach. As the night ended and the billionaire left the restaurant, there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. It was not a loud celebration, nor was it an announcement, but a quiet acknowledgement of the extraordinary skill and grace of a humble waitress. She had not sought recognition, yet her actions spoke volumes. The stories that would later circulate among the staff would celebrate her calm courage and natural intelligence, and perhaps inspire others to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to demonstrate respect, observation, and humanity. The restaurant returned to its usual rhythm, but the memory of the evening lingered. Among the busy tables and the clinking of dishes, there was a sense that something unusual had taken place. The billionaire had been served without the usual tension, and a young waitress had quietly shown that understanding, patience, and composure could make even the most intimidating experience manageable. For her, it was a small victory, yet one that would shape her confidence and approach in the days to come, and for the billionaire, it was a subtle reminder that genuine attentiveness could surprise and impress even the most discerning person. The following evening, the restaurant buzzed with the usual energy, but there was a quiet anticipation that seemed to hang in the air. The billionaire CEO had returned, and the staff could feel the weight of his presence as soon as the doors opened. They moved with a little more caution than usual, each step calculated, each word measured. But tonight there was a difference. The young waitress who had impressed him the night before was on duty again, and her calm, confident energy seemed to ripple through the staff. She had spent the day thinking about the previous night, reflecting on what had worked and what had not. Her approach had been simple and sincere, and it had left an impression, though she knew that each encounter with the billionaire was unique. He was not a man easily impressed, and she understood that this was not about winning his approval, but about maintaining her composure, attentiveness, and respect. She was determined to continue the same approach, thoughtful service without fear or pretense. As she walked past the tables, she noticed the usual patrons and exchanged smiles with some familiar faces. The restaurant felt alive, each movement of the staff orchestrated like a dance. But her eyes were drawn to the corner table where the billionaire would soon sit. He arrived quietly, entering without fanfare, yet his presence was felt immediately. The room seemed to shift subtly as people noticed him, but she remained composed, ready to approach with the same gentle confidence as before. When she first greeted him, she did so with a calm smile and steady voice. There was no hesitation, no over-explaining, just a simple acknowledgement and an offer to attend to his needs. The billionaire's gaze fell on her, and she noticed a small spark of recognition in his eyes. He seemed curious this time, as if he remembered the ease with which she had served him before. There was a difference in his demeanor. Less judgment, more interest, and a hint of cautious respect. She began by noting his preferences from the previous visit. She remembered how he liked his water, the way he arranged his utensils, and the subtle nuances in his reactions. Each detail mattered, and she attended to them with precision, without making it obvious. Her movements were natural, flowing with the rhythm of the restaurant, but carefully observant. She anticipated his needs before he even asked, adjusting small things here and there, always with discretion and grace. The billionaire seemed to notice, though he did not speak immediately. His sharp eyes followed her actions, observing without comment, a quiet evaluation that was more intimidating than any criticism could have been. She felt the weight of his attention, but instead of letting it unsettle her, she used it as motivation to remain composed. Her heart beat steadily, her mind focused, and her actions deliberate yet gentle. She understood that this was more than serving food. It was about creating a calm and respectful space where he could relax. Other staff watched from a distance, amazed at how effortlessly she navigated the situation. They had seen waitresses falter before, seen nervousness take over, and now they witnessed confidence in its purest form. She did not dominate the interaction, did not try to show off, but her presence alone seemed to make a difference. There was a balance she had found, a rhythm that made even the billionaire's attention feel manageable. As she served him, small moments began to reveal more about his personality. He spoke little, but his words carried weight. He asked precise questions, seeking clarity and accuracy rather than casual conversation. She answered with care, choosing her words deliberately and paying attention to his reactions. Each correct observation, each thoughtful gesture, seemed to earn a quiet nod from him. It was subtle, but it was progress. He was not smiling broadly or openly praising her, but the tension that usually surrounded him was easing. She noticed how he responded to attentiveness. He appreciated when she anticipated his needs, when she corrected small imperfections without making a fuss, and when she approached with calm confidence. Her actions were not about impressing him with skill or charm, but about showing respect and thoughtfulness. It was a delicate dance, balancing presence and discretion, and she managed it with quiet elegance. The billionaire's reactions were almost imperceptible, yet she noticed every nuance. A slight nod, a raised eyebrow, the way he shifted in his seat. All of these cues guided her actions. She adjusted accordingly, ensuring that her service was smooth, unobtrusive, and tailored to his preferences. It was an exercise in observation and subtlety, and she thrived in it. Her ability to read the situation without overreacting set her apart from anyone else who had served him before. Other diners began to notice the unusual ease at his table. The usual tension that surrounded him seemed absent, replaced by a calm rhythm of interaction. Staff members exchanged quiet glances, realizing that the young waitress was achieving something remarkable. She was not just surviving the challenge. She was creating an environment where even a billionaire, known for his exacting standards, could feel at ease. It was a rare skill, one that required patience, intelligence, and empathy. Throughout the meal, she maintained her focus, ensuring that every small detail was attended to. She offered water and bread at the right moments, adjusted the table settings without drawing attention, and responded to his subtle cues with precision. Her calm presence seemed to invite him to relax, to engage without the usual tension. It was a quiet victory, though she did not seek acknowledgement. Her goal was simple: to serve well, with respect and attentiveness. The billionaire, for his part, seemed intrigued. He observed her closely, noticing her composure and attention to detail. It was a different experience from what he was used to. No one had approached him this way before, without fear, without overcompensation, and with a natural grace that made the interaction feel genuine. He listened carefully, noted her actions, and began to respond in kind, offering subtle acknowledgments and occasional questions. The atmosphere at the table shifted, becoming less tense and more fluid. As the meal drew to a close, she ensured that the final details were perfect. She cleared the table with precision, arranged the cutlery neatly, and offered a final gesture of attentiveness. The billionaire's eyes met hers, and for the first time, there was a hint of a smile, a small, almost imperceptible sign of approval. It was not dramatic, but it was meaningful. She had navigated the evening with care and composure, and her efforts had been recognized in the most subtle way possible. In the kitchen, whispers of admiration spread quietly among the staff. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A waitress who had not only served a notoriously difficult billionaire but had done so with calm, respectful, and natural grace. Her approach had changed the dynamic entirely, showing that attentiveness, patience, and confidence could overcome even the most intimidating challenges. The lesson was clear. Understanding and empathy could open doors that fear and anxiety could not. The evening ended with a sense of quiet accomplishment. The billionaire left the restaurant, his presence still commanding but less intimidating than before. The young waitress returned to her station, not seeking praise, but carrying a sense of achievement and confidence. She had proven that her approach worked, that calm composure and genuine attentiveness could bridge even the widest gaps. The staff had learned a valuable lesson, and the billionaire had experienced service that was thoughtful, precise, and human. For the young waitress, the evening was more than a job well done. It was a validation of her instincts, her patience, and her understanding of people. She had approached a seemingly impossible challenge and succeeded through observation, empathy, and confidence. For the billionaire, it was a subtle awakening, a realization that genuine attentiveness and respect could create an experience unlike any he had encountered before. The night ended with a quiet sense of transformation, both for the waitress and the man she had served, setting the stage for the next encounter, where the bond of respect and understanding would deepen even further. On another busy evening at the restaurant, the energy was familiar yet slightly different. The billionaire had become a known figure, and the staff watched quietly, remembering the young waitress who had managed to approach him with calm and composure the last few times. There was curiosity in the air, but also respect. Everyone knew she had done something no one else could. Tonight, however, would be different. Something was about to happen that would truly shock the billionaire. She began her shift with the same careful preparation. Apron in place, notebook ready, mind focused. She moved among the tables with quiet confidence, noticing the smallest details and listening to the subtle conversations around her. The restaurant seemed almost alive with anticipation, and she felt ready to rise to the challenge. She remembered the lessons of the previous nights. Patience, observation, and genuine attentiveness were her strengths, and she would rely on them again. The billionaire arrived quietly, his presence immediately felt throughout the room. He did not make a show, yet his gaze seemed to sweep over the restaurant, assessing everything and everyone. Staff members glanced at each other, anxious yet respectful. They knew what to expect, but there was always uncertainty when it came to him. He was unpredictable, exacting, and intelligent, a combination that had unsettled many before. Yet she remained steady, walking past him with calm assurance and preparing to approach his table. Her greeting was soft but confident, her voice steady, her posture relaxed yet attentive. She did not rush, did not over-explain, and most importantly, did not show fear. The billionaire watched her closely, his eyes studying her movements, the way she anticipated his needs, and the quiet confidence that radiated from her. For the first time, his expression softened slightly. There was curiosity and even a hint of surprise. He had seen her before, but something about the ease of her approach and the thoughtfulness of her actions intrigued him. She began by serving him with precision, recalling his preferences from previous visits. Water poured just right, utensils arranged neatly, and the menu described accurately without unnecessary commentary. She moved with a natural grace, her actions deliberate but unobtrusive. Every gesture showed attentiveness without exaggeration. The billionaire noted these small details, impressed by the subtle mastery she displayed. Unlike others who tried too hard or faltered under pressure, she was steady, thoughtful, and calm. As the meal progressed, subtle changes became noticeable. The billionaire was less tense, more engaged, and even attentive to the way she presented herself. Her focus on the small but meaningful details allowed him to relax, something he had not experienced with other waitresses. He began to respond with small acknowledgments, nods, and careful comments, testing her ability to maintain composure under subtle scrutiny. She met each challenge effortlessly, maintaining a calm and respectful demeanor. The staff observed from afar, whispering quietly to each other in awe. They had seen waitresses falter, stumble, or show nervousness when dealing with the billionaire. They had never seen anyone approach him with such grace and composure. Her ability to balance attentiveness with natural calmness was extraordinary. She did not dominate the interaction, did not seek attention or approval, but her quiet strength and careful observation commanded respect. It was this subtle mastery that made the difference. Then came a moment that would truly shock the billionaire. He asked a question, not about the menu or his preferences, but a question that tested her judgment and understanding. Many waitresses might have hesitated or given a standard answer. She paused briefly, considering the best approach, then responded thoughtfully, clearly demonstrating insight and genuine care. The billionaire's eyes widened slightly. He had expected caution, perhaps hesitation, but not this level of understanding. Her response was not only correct but perceptive, revealing her intelligence and empathy. Caught him completely off guard. Other diners and staff noticed the change. The tension around the billionaire's table, usually palpable, was replaced by a subtle engagement, a quiet fascination. The waitress had shifted the dynamic completely. Her confidence, thoughtfulness, and calm presence allowed him to experience service differently. He was no longer a demanding figure to be feared, but a person being attended to with respect and understanding. It was a rare moment, one that few had ever witnessed. She continued the interaction with the same composure. Each movement, each gesture, each word was measured and thoughtful. She anticipated his needs without being intrusive, responded to his subtle cues, and maintained an ease that allowed the billionaire to relax. His reactions were gradual but clear. He leaned back slightly, a small smile appeared, and his usually sharp eyes showed a hint of warmth. It was a remarkable transformation, one that spoke volumes about her skill and character. The manager and staff exchanged quiet glances, amazed at what was unfolding. They had seen a subtle shift in the billionaire's demeanor, something that no previous interaction had achieved. He was engaged without dominance, calm without rigidity, and attentive without intimidation. All of this was a result of the waitress's approach. Genuine, thoughtful, and patient. Her presence had created an environment where even someone as exacting and intimidating as him could feel comfortable and respected. The climax of the evening came when the billionaire made a subtle but significant comment, acknowledging her attentiveness and insight. It was not a loud declaration, not a public show of approval, but a quiet recognition that carried immense weight. She had impressed him in a way that no one else had, not through flattery or exaggeration, but through careful observation, patience, and understanding. Her actions spoke louder than words, demonstrating a rare combination of intelligence, empathy, and calm confidence. As the meal ended, she ensured that every detail was perfect. The table was cleared with care, the cutlery arranged neatly, and her final gesture of attentiveness was delivered with grace. The billionaire met her gaze, and for the first time, there was a clear acknowledgement of respect and appreciation. It was subtle, but it was powerful. She had not only served him successfully but had left a lasting impression that would linger beyond that evening. In the kitchen, the staff were quietly inspired. They had seen someone achieve what seemed impossible. The young waitress had navigated a complex and intimidating challenge with grace, thoughtfulness, and composure. She had transformed the interaction from one of tension and fear to one of respect and understanding. Her success was not just about serving a demanding billionaire. It was a demonstration of human insight, empathy, and the quiet power of composure. The billionaire left the restaurant that night, his presence still commanding, but with a subtle shift in his demeanor. He had experienced service that was unlike anything he had encountered before. The young waitress had managed to bridge the gap between fear and respect, between expectation and genuine understanding. It was a rare and memorable encounter, one that would change how he viewed those around him, and how the staff viewed the art of attentive service. For the waitress, the evening was a profound affirmation of her abilities. She had faced a challenge that many thought impossible, and had succeeded through patience, observation, and genuine care. Her confidence and composure had not only impressed the billionaire but had also inspired her colleagues. She understood that this was not a one-time achievement but a demonstration of what consistent thoughtfulness, attentiveness, and courage could accomplish. The night ended with a quiet sense of accomplishment, a recognition of human insight and connection, and the knowledge that sometimes simple, genuine actions could have the most extraordinary impact. The following evening, the restaurant was as lively as ever, but there was a subtle sense of anticipation in the air. The billionaire had returned once again, and the staff moved with careful attention, aware of the unspoken tension that accompanied his presence. They remembered the previous evenings, how the young waitress had approached him with confidence and composure, and how she had managed to shift the dynamic from fear to respect. Tonight, everyone wondered what would happen next. The young waitress began her shift with calm focus. Her apron was clean, her notebook ready, and her mind sharp. She moved among the tables with her usual quiet grace, observing details, listening to conversations, and ensuring that every table received thoughtful service. Her experience with the billionaire had taught her that success was not about showing off skill but about anticipating needs, observing cues, and remaining calm under pressure. She was determined to maintain her approach, knowing that consistency and sincerity were her greatest strengths. When the billionaire entered the restaurant, he did so with his usual quiet authority. His eyes scanned the room, and the staff instinctively adjusted their pace and posture. She met his gaze calmly, acknowledging him with a warm yet professional smile. There was no hesitation, no trace of fear, only quiet confidence. He seemed intrigued, noting the way she carried herself with both respect and ease. There was curiosity in his eyes, a subtle acknowledgement of her presence and skill from the nights before. She approached his table with measured steps, her mind focused on the details that mattered. She greeted him politely, offering to attend to his needs without over-explaining or exaggerating. He observed her closely, studying her movements and the calmness in her voice. Unlike others who had faltered under his scrutiny, she remained composed, attentive, and natural. Her approach was simple but effective, demonstrating confidence and genuine care. The billionaire ordered his meal, speaking quietly and with precision. She listened carefully, noting his preferences and responding with accuracy. Each action she took, from pouring water to arranging utensils, was deliberate and thoughtful. She anticipated his needs without drawing attention to herself, ensuring that every detail met his expectations. Her calm presence seemed to put him at ease, a rare occurrence that had not happened with other waitresses. As the meal progressed, the interaction between them began to change. The billionaire, known for his high standards and exacting nature, showed subtle signs of appreciation. He leaned back slightly, relaxed his posture, and even engaged in brief conversation, testing her attentiveness and understanding. She responded with calm confidence, maintaining a steady presence that balanced attentiveness and discretion. Her natural ease allowed the billionaire to experience service differently, without tension or fear. Small gestures made a significant impact. She adjusted items on the table subtly, offered water and bread at appropriate moments, and responded to his nonverbal cues with precision. Each thoughtful action demonstrated her understanding and respect for his preferences. The billionaire, accustomed to nervous or overly eager service, was clearly impressed by her ability to navigate the interaction with composure and intelligence. He observed her carefully, acknowledging the subtle mastery she displayed. Other staff members watched from a distance, amazed at her skill and calm demeanor. They had seen countless waitresses struggle with the billionaire's presence, yet she handled it with a rare combination of patience, confidence, and attentiveness. Her success was not only in serving him but in creating an atmosphere where he felt comfortable and respected. The tension that usually accompanied him was replaced by a quiet harmony, a testament to her thoughtful approach. Then came the defining moment of the evening. The billionaire asked a question that tested her understanding and judgment, something few would have been able to answer correctly. She paused briefly, considering the best response, and then answered thoughtfully, demonstrating insight and awareness. Her response was perceptive and genuine, reflecting her ability to listen, observe, and respond with intelligence. The billionaire's eyes widened slightly, a subtle sign of surprise and admiration. He had not expected such a level of understanding, and it caught him completely off guard. Her composure remained steady as the billionaire processed her answer. She did not seek to impress or dominate, but allowed her natural attentiveness and intelligence to guide the interaction. The subtle shift in the billionaire's demeanor became noticeable. He was more engaged, less tense, and began to interact with her in a way that reflected curiosity and respect rather than judgment. The dynamic had changed completely. He was no longer an intimidating figure to be feared, but a person being served thoughtfully and with genuine care. Throughout the meal, she maintained this balance, responding to his subtle cues and ensuring that every detail was perfect. Her calm presence allowed him to relax further, and her thoughtful actions demonstrated her understanding of both his preferences and his personality. The interaction was smooth, fluid, and respectful, a rare achievement in the history of the restaurant. Her skill lay not in grand gestures, but in the quiet attentiveness and intelligence she displayed. The climax of the evening arrived as the billionaire acknowledged her attentiveness and insight in a quiet, meaningful way. He did not speak loudly or make a public display of approval, but the recognition in his eyes was unmistakable. He had been impressed not by flattery or overcompensation, but by her genuine understanding, composure, and thoughtfulness. The young waitress had achieved what no one else had. She had shifted the dynamic entirely and earned his respect through subtle, intelligent service. Other diners and staff noticed the change as well. The tension that usually surrounded the billionaire's table was gone, replaced by a calm and engaging atmosphere. Her ability to maintain composure under scrutiny, anticipate needs, and respond thoughtfully had transformed the interaction. It was a quiet but powerful demonstration of human insight and attentiveness, showing that respect and genuine care could bridge even the most intimidating gaps. As the meal concluded, she ensured that every final detail was handled perfectly. She cleared the table with precision, arranged the utensils neatly, and offered a final gesture of attentiveness. The billionaire met her gaze once more, and for the first time, there was a clear acknowledgement of appreciation and respect. It was subtle but profound, a lasting impression that spoke volumes about her skill, character, and composure. In the kitchen, the staff were quietly inspired. They had witnessed someone achieve the impossible, serving a notoriously demanding billionaire with calm, thoughtfulness, and grace. Her actions demonstrated that genuine attentiveness, observation, and composure could succeed where fear and anxiety often failed. The lesson was clear. Understanding and empathy could open doors that intimidation and expectation could not. For the young waitress, the evening was more than a professional success. It was an affirmation of her instincts, patience, and understanding of people. She had faced a challenge that many thought impossible and had succeeded through careful observation, attentiveness, and calm confidence. Her composure had impressed not only the billionaire but also inspired her colleagues, showing that intelligence, empathy, and poise could create extraordinary results. The billionaire left the restaurant with his presence still commanding, but there was a noticeable change in his demeanor. He had experienced service that was thoughtful, respectful, and genuine, unlike anything he had encountered before. The young waitress had managed to bridge the gap between fear and respect, expectation and understanding, creating an encounter that would be remembered long after the evening ended. For both of them, the night ended with a sense of quiet transformation. She had proven the power of calm composure, attentiveness, and human insight. He had experienced the surprising impact of genuine care and thoughtfulness. The story of that evening would remain in the minds of the staff and diners, a reminder that simple, sincere actions could create extraordinary effects. Through patience, understanding, and quiet confidence, the young waitress had not only served a billionaire, but had also changed the way he viewed service, respect, and human connection.